Hello to everyone. Today we'll continue the journey of the basics of the Excel tools. I'm talking about the pivot tables. This tool became less and less popular over the last 20 years. And it's not a surprise why. Because Microsoft created many new options which are much more flexible and dynamic. But I think still that pivot tables can find a place in the arsenal of the proper analyst. Without further ado, let's jump to Excel. So today we're going to consider a few specific options related with the pivot tables. First of them is how to extract the data from the pivot table. Let's see it on an example. Let's imagine you have a data table which you want to fill and you have that pivot table. On this specific example I put the report and the pivot table on the same page, but you don't need to do it. And usually pivot table is kept on a separate tab in isolation from other reports. First of all, we need to activate the Get Pivot Data option. Here it is activated in my case. Not. In order to add it to the quick access toolbar, you need to go to put three dots, choose all commands and generate pivot data. It is essential to activate the generate get pivot data, because if you don't do it, any link to the pivot table will be like a link to any random cell, which is what we don't want to have. In reality, we want to activate this option, and then the whole link will look like a link to the database. And before that, let's see which parameters do we want to have in our pivot data to be able to fulfill our report. We want to have the company name, the price class, the diameter size, and also the month. So let's add the month. Now we have all the elements in place, and let's fill in the data. So we just put the cell to any random cell, it doesn't matter to which, because we will be anyway changing the parameters. Now the task is very simple. You need to change all the parameters. So the first parameter is number of the months. You change it to this number and then you lock it. Second is the company. You lock it to this cell. Price class. You lock it to this cell. And also if you want to go to the standard diameter, you link it to this cell. Let's say beautification of the report. Let's overlay it with FR formula. So now, as you can see, the formula works properly. If you copy it to all the other cells, you will get there. If you want to extract the data from the pivot table, which contains not one but multiple values, you need to go again to the same formula and pay attention to the first part. So here you see there is a link to the value name, and as you can see, in order to be able to play with it, we just need to slightly modify the formula, adjust it to the one which we need. In this case, I'll do it this way, and if I change it to the stock level, you see that the value changes. Well, when you deal with the standard pivot tables and you want to create some nice reports, is a slicer. In order to add the slicer, you need to choose the pivot table analysis and insert slicer. Here you need to choose the field. Let's take as a company as a slicer. So here you see the slicer, and if you choose BT only, for instance, in this example, the pivot table will filter the column company and leave only the company which you have. You can also have multiple selections if you select them through command 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever, or even take out all the filters. Also, you can have multiple slicers for the same pivot table. If you add another slicer, for instance, for, let's say, diameter, you can select only slims or only standard. This is a very helpful tool when you want to slice and dice your pivot table for very specific data points. Another option to use slicers is to use them for multiple tables. So you can essentially copy your pivot table. Let's imagine we have it here. And let's take out the second slicer just to make it a bit more visible. So we have two data tables. And let's imagine in this example, in this table, we're going to see the sales only by company. And in this table, we will see more, on the left, we will see more details, including the price, class, and diameter. So we already have a slicer for the left table. Let's link it to the right table. So we select the slicer, go to the menu on the top, and go to Report Connections. Here, as you can see, it's linked to the two tables. And if it's not linked, you can always link it too. As you can see, whenever we change any value in the slicer, it changes the both tables. And the last tool, which I would like to show you today, is the calculated field. So on top of the data fields which you already have in your database, which your pivot table is linked to, you can create additional calculated field. Actually, you have plenty of options here. You can use all the usual formulas, maximum, minimum, plus, minus. I will give you a simple example. Let's say it's a new field. And let's just say that it's the ratio between the volumes divided by, let's say, stock level. And we have both of those values already in the table, so we can see immediately the result. The benefit of it is that it will be automatically calculated when you change the parameters of the pivot tables. You can always open the list of formulas on a separate tab, and you will be able to see the exact definition of each of the field, which could be very helpful when you operate with multiple additional data fields. These are all the tips which I plan to share with you today. I hope you find them helpful, and if you are interested in the topic, let me know and we can make a continuation of this video. Thank you very much, and I wish you a good day.